Good morning. It's George Lee's just finishing off the story about the vicious popes that have prevailed. I've told you in the last 3 videos, and I'm just about to finish on it now, that the popes that the Blackadder team laugh at are particularly vicious. So one of them is Gregory IX. He's the one that burnt the witches. He's the one that sent the Crusades, the 6th Crusade, to the Holy Lands to brutalise it for the 6th time on behalf of the European mythology that is Christendom and all its might. Yeah? And the only thing that they doubt is whether or not the witches that they burn on the bonfires and kill in massive numbers are able to fly. The broom joke is a joke about one of the kings. I believe it's the Plantagenets, and that's why the broom is burnt at the funeral of John F. Kennedy. Okay, the music is enigmatic, but the bosses and the bastards that make those movies, because they drop into the cast list actual characters from world history, and I'm going to show you now how to find my website and how to find the actual characters in world history that started all of this. So that is the Piso family, or let's just see if we've got some music further back. I'm not sure what else I selected. Oh yeah.
New York, 2007, the Winston Hotel. On February the 2nd, Jake.
So this one is going to be the song about the Christian missions, the pilgrim fathers sweeping across into America, and I believe it's sung by the same woman who sings about the green willow all around your hat and the war dead jokes. May not be her. Yeah, but you get the gist of it. This is about the pilgrims. It's about the hobgoblins and all of the icons of the church roof, and the word that I forgot in the horse racing sector that links into the religious fraud, because the horse is the icon for false Christianity. That's the hippos. Yeah, and the word that I forgot yesterday in the video was the steeplechase at the races. They think it's ever so funny because all of them understand that the whole of Christianity is a fraud for 2,000 years. That's the elites at the races, not the bimbos that were being demonized as women for their beauty and their dress code. I do not think that we were politically incorrect enough to see that sort of behaviour, but they still do it at the races because they've got the power. Yeah, right then, let's see what this one is like. I got this to be one of the tunes that was played at my wedding. Yeah, I don't give up readily, and I'm getting the whole story out really, really soon and in simple English. Right then. Oh, what's happened?
Shores Harper breaks. He meets the Princess of Bourbon.
Right then, first I'm going to show you how to find my web page. So go to your search engine and hit Prof George Lee's Revelations. I'm going to show you how to find the work of Abelard Reuchlin and all of my input to the same issue of how the massive Christianity fraud leads to the ownership of the world by tyrants and profiteers for all of our history since writing was invented in Canaan. So, Prof. George Lees / Revelations, which is the last chapter of the 66 in the Christian Bible, if you did not know that. Right then, so when you get there, the index is down the left hand side, and scan down it until you find Faking the New Testament. Okay, so it's alphabetical. Look for the block topics, okay, and go down till we get to faking. There we are. So football, and there's one of the videos that I had censored by YouTube just a couple of days ago, the papacy, World War I and World War II, and the word limit that you're imposed on YouTube. But go to the top of there we are. So Faking the New Testament, we've got everything on this website. That's the illegitimate monarchy, all of the people that get sired by the world owners in the financial services sector, and all of Queen Elizabeth's children, which is the bit that got me shut down on the YouTube video descriptor today. All of them. The only legitimate one in our only legitimate marriage was with blind King George of Cumbria. That's why YouTube immediately stopped me being able to type a descriptor for the video that you can now see online. It is not the full descriptor for it. I'm going to have to post it on my website. So open up the page Faking the New Testament, a master plan for geopolitical domination, and you will see a series of now this is the PDF I want you to find. It's easier to understand if you read my Facebook and just look at if you read my website and look at the pictures. But if you're an intellectual and you're bemused why your university or your college or your school gets no pay rises, gets no funding from the government anymore, and all of it is leading to massive campaigns to demonize false religions. This guy, Abelard Reuchlin, describes that in great detail. So click on the HTTP. It's about quarter of the way down the front page of that website under Faking the New Testament, yeah, and you've got there a link to http://www.ivantic.net/ostal/knija/trueauthorship.pdf. That will open up this document, and I'm going to take you through that document stage by stage later this afternoon or this evening. Yeah, you need to be well equipped mathematically, and you need to be mentally agile, because I don't have the memory to keep it all in my head. That's why I read it so frequently. It is the most potent document I have ever read in my life as a researcher. Okay, so click on that and it should open up for you. They may block it because it is just what I just described. It is what is going to free the world eventually. And Abelard Reuchlin, the investigator who wrote the document, understood that this man, Calpurnius Piso, he's the man that they chant about at the golf course. That's the men, you're the men. Yeah, that is the links to the witches that I will tell you about when we get back to Pope Gregory IX. But let's click on it and see if it opens in my own home on my own computer. It did a couple of days ago, which means that I've not been able to get to sleep before 3 AM because it's so enthralling. If it's still a copyright issue, I will apologise to Abelard Reuchlin, but I thoroughly recommend that if you can find his office now, that you buy the document. I believe the poor man has been taken down by the world owners because his revelations are so potent. The sun's coming out. I don't know how to interpret that. The doves are walking on my path. I don't know whether or not the sun coming out means that Abelard Reuchlin is still alive. If he is, I wish him well. He's one of the most insightful men on this globe, and all of the false quizzling medias that are traitors to every country on the globe now they live in fear of his every revelation. They used to joke about it because there were too few intellectuals who could understand the depth of it, and the people that worship at the churches that are the victims of this are just simple and God-fearing people, but the God that they should be fearing has now totally almost been displaced by Jesus Christ, the false icon. All of the other messianic religions are fake-ups using the same template, and the template is graphically described in that document. So let's see if it opens. It has very few pictures. If you're a bimbo, I would not bother with trying to understand it. There's a challenge for you all. I cannot define for you the bimbo word for fear of accusations of political incorrectness. And when you find it, you can save it to your computer and you can look at it again and again and again, like I do. Arius Calpurnius Piso. Alpha to Omega. The whole story is in there, and I'm going to tell it for you in a couple of videos over the next 24 to 36 hours depending on my sleep patterns. Okay, right then, let's go back to Gregory IX, because he's the person that is the villainous person that they talk about in the Blackadder movies, on the one entitled Captain Cook. Yeah, that's because he's so villainous that they dare not let the world know what they're laughing at when they mention him twice on the episode about culling British people in the trench warfare in World War I. Okay, so we profiled yesterday how this is the man. He's elected to office, I believe it said yesterday, at age 80. Yeah, he sparks the 6th Christian Crusade because he opts out of it. Then he gets threatened with excommunication, so he has to martyr all of those people. That's the 6th conflict in the Holy Lands, and I believe it was around 1229. Okay, let's have a little look about that, because that's where we closed on the last one. It's amazing. So this man dies in his bed somewhere in the late 80s or the 90s. That's his age band. He's already been accused by the historic time team people, yeah, of burning all of the witches, of getting rid of all of the pagans, of demonizing the Jews until we get through to the judgment day at the end of the world. Yeah, that's the end of the world is nigh prophecy, and I'm going to show you how they've screwed up on that, because they're now having to defect from office because of the potency of the plain English of people like me that describe what they do since they left Hitler Youth. That's Ratzinger, Benedict XVI, and Benedict XV is the Pope that was in charge in World War I for a laugh, yeah, and for a massive genocide. Gets quite gusty when you mention those words. Okay, right, so Gregory began his pontificate by suspending the whole, it was not him that fought the crusade. He suspended the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II for dilatoriness in carrying out the promised 6th crusade. Okay, so he's 80 years old, he's pontificating from a chair about what people who are given empires are obligated to do in the name of the Christian movement. Yeah, that's the love your neighbours movement, if you had not noticed it. So he chastised Emperor Frederick II for lateness in carrying out the promised 6th crusade. Frederick II appealed to the sovereigns of Europe, complaining of his treatment. The suspension was followed by excommunication and threats of deposition as deeper rifts appeared. They get into little tiffs, allegedly, and I've told you about between World War I and World War II of the murder and disappearance on the same day as the head of the selection panel and the previous elderly Pope. Yeah, and then they make sure that they have no inquests, because the new Pope, who's murdered the last one and the chair of the selection panel, does not want to be investigated by mortals, and they have a vicious laugh at the gods that are in the front of the pearly gates until they actually get there. Okay, Frederick II went to the Holy Land under the coercion that I've just described, and in fact managed to take possession of Jerusalem. Okay, so then the whole of Christendom and the Church of Rome begins to turn on Gregory XI, because he's getting on a bit, and at 80 when he started, he must be quite mature when they try and push him out of power. So Prince Archbishop of Salzburg in 1241 at the Council of Regensburg declared that Gregory IX was that man of perdition whom they call the Antichrist, who in his extravagant boasting says, "I am God, I cannot err." He argued that the Pope was the little horn of Daniel. I don't understand that, but it's a joke about the false biblical texts that the Pisos wrote in the Villa Papyri, yeah, which is what you can find about on that insightful document. All of the history of all of this massive fraud is revealed there. And there are videos elsewhere on that webpage that I just showed you how to find it, that describe the work of Abelard Reuchlin. If you don't have the patience to read the document and to work out the mathematics of the code that becomes a massive joke used by all of the news media globally for 2000 years allegedly, but I don't believe that bit either, because of the naming of the Garden of Eden, which is Aden, now the Yemen, carpet bombed for the oil wealth for the Brits in 1963 by Harold Wilson, the socialist, and the Bilderberger, all at the same time. So that picture of Gregory, which is where we left off yesterday, is in the US House of Representatives. That's where the Pilgrim Fathers went, yeah, as false religion icons, to take this into the country, to brutalise all of the American Indians and to render them nearly extinct, like the buffalo on the vast tracts of land that the Indian nations, 500 of them, had been capable of sustaining for all of biological time, since God planted them in the appropriate place. Okay, so according to scholars, Vox in Rama is the first official church document that condemns the black cat as an incarnation of Satan, and consequently, so if you're in the RSPCA, please get active on this and complain that the whole the history of the Roman Church is a massive set of crimes and interlocking death threats. This one was carried out, the genocide was on the pussycat, because the risk is the exposure that these bastards, particularly the pious ones, are directly laughing at the authors. That's Calpurnius Piso that you saw in that picture, who's the author of the early parts of the New Testament. Yeah, and that is, he writes our Marcus as the template. And I've just realised that my first English teacher, Mr. Turpey, at Kelso High School, I believe he may be dead now. I still saw his children occasionally since I came back from New Zealand. But when you look at Turpey, you've got the Christian letter T, which is the Christian cross, the Marcus joke about the Pisos writing the Matthew, Mark, Luke and John chapters, and the Mark chapter was released after our Marcus had been written as the practice session, yet in 79 AD, when Vesuvius erupted and the fault line in Scotland began to shake around near Dunblane, where Andy Murray is the diversion from all of the religious frauds. Thank you though to the local clerics from the Catholic Church, the Jehovah's and the Church of Scotland, who are now talking to me openly as if you would like to have my friendship. I would love to have your friendship. The sun's just gone in, so I don't know whether or not I have yet won your friendship. But I will not stop trying, and I will not resort to violence. Yeah? Okay? So this man killed the black cats because that would give the game away about Calpurnius Piso. Yeah? And the Cybele jokes about the goddess who was the panther person. Yeah? That then becomes the Pearson name. I'm not sure what the derivation of that is, but when you read the PDF that I've referred you to, you will understand it, even if you are a Pearson, and then you will understand it already. Okay? So it's also claimed, so an incarnation of Satan, that's the black cat, and consequently it was the death warrant for the animal. It's also claimed that this worsened the Black Death a century after Gregory's time. So he kills the cats, the rats in the Arian myths are allowed to thrive, and that leads to the bubonic plague. So the rats were unchecked in Europe due to the decline of the cat numbers. The Black Death began in Central Asia and spread west, devastating large swathes of Central Asia, Asia Minor and the Middle East before hitting Europe. That's the Middle East, where the Holy Lands are, and you don't need the Black Death to get the numbers down there, because we've had 6 crusades already. Okay? 6 crusades to cull the people that are in the opposition, and the people that are in the opposition do not fight back. Their buildings until a few years ago are perfectly intact. Okay? Right then, so you get the bubonic plague, although there are alternative theories of the Black Death, and some recent research provides evidence that the plague was pneumonic and airborne infection spread from human to human, not bubonic. That's like my mate who got on the iron lung when he tried to become an entrepreneur in giving to Africa the healthcare that we've had for 200 years, and the anaesthetics and all of the drugs and all of the blood bank technology that we now take for granted. So the death rate in Liberia for people that get caesarean operations from the local services is 1 mum in 12. The statistic in Britain is 1 mum in 180,000 caesarean operations. It is tragic and it is terrible, but if you become the victim and you're not God-fearing, that man was on an iron lung for 6 weeks, and I've never seen anything happen so fast. And I'm now really God-fearing myself, and that is why I'm dedicating the whole of my life to interpreting the instructions from the skies. Sometimes I get it wrong, but usually the people are quite understanding, because I'm spouting it out now and they are delighted with that. Okay? Right then, so that's the end of that little page, and I'll now close on the list of popes to Ratzinger. Okay? And I don't know how many of them we can see the Piso joke in, but I will scan it again just to see if we can see how big this belly laugh is for them. The naming of the Nile, the naming of the foot in the Italian language, all of it is a massive joke. Oh, St. Malachi's prophecy. So this is maybe the end of the world prophecies again. Translation and comments by Zoltan, research by Mike Herbert. Okay, this is the fruit of a tremendous collective effort, including the list Innocent, the anti-pope who reigned from 1179 to 1180, and Benedict XIV, the counter anti-pope, or as history came to know him, the hidden pope. So Benedict XIV was way back in 1400, and it's quite strange that when we had Benedict XV, he was in charge in World War I, and within a few decades we had Benedict XVI, who's the German Ratzinger guy forced to defect. Okay? I'm not sure if I can make a good job of this because I have not highlighted it. The second Benedict XIV, this second Benedict XIV spent the rest of his life and his entire so-called papal rule in prison. Sometimes they fall out with themselves, and that can be really dangerous, like being in the monarchy and being the elder son of the family that is going to be the next monarchy. It leads to all sorts of treasonous acts and many murders, but in the royal family they call it an unlawful killing, because the head of the Metropolitan Police is in charge of the inquests, and they get really well paid for what they do to ignore the crimes that impact only on the ordinary people, not the criminals. Okay, so have a look at that for yourself. I thought it was just, oh, here's the list of popes. So we're back to 1143. Yeah, have you noticed that since Christ was born, allegedly, yeah, that there is a massive gap before history kicks in? Yeah, and the reason for that, they've got a solution to that one, of course, which I think you understand now. That is time travel and the TARDIS. Yeah, the TARDIS jokes about being able to make up for the gap between the Jesus birth in the year dot and the 150 years or so it took to write the biblical version of that. So what you do is you invent the Dalek and you make it look exactly like the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, or Kylie's little sexy dress just before she got her breast cancer, because those are jokes like the Basel Faulty joke about stealing from society en masse in a global region, which is the entire globe. They now control the issuance of money, and all of that becomes the Basel Faulty joke. Basel Faulty is John Cleese. He lives his life in the tax havens. He then makes movies about a fish called Wanda. The fish called Wanda is his penis, and the wandering is the flitting to and fro like all of the religious people do and all of the political people do. Lord Patton has been a member of the Labour Party, the Conservative Party. He's been the governor of Hong Kong, and all of them become people who get involved like Wedgie Ben in massive cover-ups of their true motives. But I'm getting off the religious theme. So there's the second Lucifer joke about the Pope between 1144 and 1145. Some of them don't live very long. Okay, Anastasius, Adrian, there's one. Yeah, the Arian myth comes in. Yeah, the Arian, the Arius Piso, we've explained that to you. I've shown you the man's name, Arius Calpurnius Piso. That's the Arian myths in Northern Europe that drive the world to war. And I told you in yesterday's video about the bibliothèque website that portrays all of the protocols of Zion that riled Hitler up, that Albert Pike used to cull all of the American Indian nations and to burn their bones to crisp. Okay, so Victor, Pascal, the Paschal candle joke I've also explained. That's Arius Piso. So the first letter is A, alpha, the last letter is O, omega. Alpha to omega. Every Easter they tell you that the end of the world is nigh. And what they wanted to happen was that they could spark World War III in 2014, before we even had the Scottish referendum. But because there are now so many bright people that realise how the tyranny works, they have not got the courage to do it, because they will be lined up and shot as traitors to their own armies. Yeah, it's as basic as that now. The news is out, which is why every one of the politicians is quaking in fear. None of their policies are constructive. All of them are just to cover up this evil past. There's the eugenics laugh already in 1145. Right then. Anastasius, Pascal, Callistus, Alexander III. Yeah, all of that. Jesus died at 32, Alexander the Great died at 32. The Freemasonic numbers are all explained in that Piso document that I've referred you to. If you're interested in world history, you need to read it, and within a fortnight you will be a master of what they used to call the inner circle. That's only kings, queens, emperors, generals, field marshals, and the old day equivalent of the admiral. Yeah, the world owners are the only people in that inner circle for 2000 years. Innocent the Third. That joke is quite obvious. And you've got little profiles here, so that St Alban joke there is the Alba joke. That is Scotia, I'm led to believe, but there's also an Alba lake in the city of Rome, and that is where Pope Ratzinger now resides. Yeah, and that's the Alba joke, where we have to watch the Scottish rugby on telly in Gaelic, because all of them want society to be incapable of any form of togetherness. Yeah, they want the teams to be unsuccessful, and all of the sporting frauds were explained by the things that I looked up yesterday in the racing sector, because the racing sector is linked to the football sector and to the golfing sector, and all of the websites interlock. And when you look at the false news that comes out of there and the names of the horses that come to the various places, it ties in to what the real journalists are telling in their stories at that time. But the women are really charming, and they dedicate their whole life as innocents to the rearing and the playing with those horses. I have nothing against that at all. It's innocent. It's not genocide in other people's continents, and it is not land grabbing. Although Ireland provides a lot of the horses, yeah, and that's the elites in Ireland. The ordinary people in Ireland never really get a chance. Yeah, because they watch the sport, and they go on global tours to watch it, and they spend all of their money on that, but they never have ownership of their own country, or even the issuance of its money. Although they did have a bank in Galway for quite a long period of time, but I cannot tell you about the frauds that went on there. They are really, really vicious, and they get replayed 3 or 4 times by different people, called hockey, called sorrel. Yeah, and Michael Moore proudly declared that he's Irish, and he's a chartered accountant, but he denies that he's a financial criminal. Lucius III. Yeah, do you get the Lucifer joke? Gregory VIII, Clement, Clementine, maybe becomes the Orange Movement joke. Honorius, Gregory, Innocent, Alexander again, Urban, Gregory the 10th, Nicholas. Yeah, St Nicholas. I don't really understand that part of the Christmas joke, but the rest of it is easy. The presents are: the myrrh is an aphrodisiac to make the virgin fertile. Isn't that funny? It's lucky that we're able to get away with politically incorrect things. Yeah, like that nowadays. There's another Adrian, 2 Nicholases. And the Santa Claus joke is a joke about Santa, the saint joke, which becomes the Satan joke, and Santa Claus is the Klaus Moses joke. Loads of Nicholases, Bonifaces. Oh, there's a colourful French edition. Okay, and there's the jokes about Paterculus, who was also one of the fathers of the Piso families. That's 1T, as you know, John Patterson. Be very proud of the 1T bit. Paterculus is right at the beginning of the Abelard Reuchlin disclosures, because that is the beginning of the Piso family that led the writing of all of the false biblical documents. So Boniface and the papacy were in Avignon for a time, because they fall out with each other all the time. That was when we had 3 popes. Okay, and that was when we had the plague, but it only struck down the people in Rome and Avignon and left the Bohemians alone. Okay, I told you that yesterday. Let's keep going. There's a Benedict XII, Clement Innocent. This is not really very interesting. And let's see what I've got at the bottom. So that's 1400 to 1667. 1666, I believe, was the Great Plague in London. That's Clement IX then. Gregory XVI. Here we go. The Piuses. Yeah, so they get really up front. Can you see the word pi in every one of those papal names? Pius the 7th, Pius the 9th, sorry, Leo the 12th, Pius the 8th, Pius the 9th, Benedict the 15th. That's 1914 to 1922, which is why, because they know that the world is waking up to how corrupted the Vatican is, that they put in Pope Benedict XVI as Ratzinger, the Nazi Pope, and they had to take him out again. Pius the 11th, Pius the 12th is the Nazi Pope that ran the people out in 1945 through Odessa, through Latin America, and into fascist Latin America through the Canary Islands. Pastor. Yeah, that's a joke about baking the flour and turning the bones into flour, and that is the baker jokes. Okay. Pastor and Nautila. Yeah, you need to read that document if you want to understand all of the nomenclature jokes. There's a John joke. Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. The church that I worship at and my eldest son was christened at was called St. John's. Like the football ground, I believe, oh no, sorry, that was St. James's. Yeah, when the news begins to come out, they change it. Yeah, and it then just becomes affiliated to the local parish address. So instead of St. John's now, we have Kelso North, almost as if they could see me coming. Okay, and you've got Paul's and John Paul's, and I think John Paul II was the first Jewish Pope, which is a major triumph for them. He was the Polish man called Wojtyla. And there was a revolutionary in Britain called Wat Tyler, but I doubt that that has anything to do with the election of a Polish Pope, where we had a Polish revolutionary called Lech Walesa, who took the world on, led a successful revolution, then was undermined by the IMF out of France, led by Strauss-Kahn the rapist. Yeah, and all of the people in France don't really care about the crimes of the IMF, but they do care a lot about the chemtrails and the menace of the aluminium spraying that the rich people are foolish enough to do on their vast tracts of land. Yeah. Okay, so we've got to 1978 and then everything goes sticky. Yeah, as if they've got sweaty palms on Palm Sunday. Okay, there's no replacements beyond John Paul II, because they're kind of ashamed of what they've done now. Yeah, so that is Ratzinger, Hitler Youth, and I cannot find them on any business registers, but some of the people that are the equivalent of the butler in the regime that was the outgoing regime that was Ratzinger's, they get a terrible time in the media, because everything that the world is knowing about them now, and their links to the Rothschilds and Kalman Rothschilds, for I can't remember which pope it was, but Kalman Rothschild visited, and he was allowed to kiss the finger of the Pope rather than lick his arse or to kiss his feet, because the kissing of the feet is the biblical story. Yeah? Right then, so I think that's the end of this video, and it's not a very interesting one compared to the others, but please look at numbers 1, 2 and 3. It's vicious, and I've not really covered at all the burning of the witches, because there's nothing left in history on that. Even it's similar also to the thing that happened 2 or 3 generations back, which was indentured labour. Yeah, I've talked to Jim Fetzer about that, and I've republished Greg Hallett's insightful work on the poor house and how ordinary people never get a life, how they're led into summer wars to keep the numbers down, to get rid of the males so the females can be abused like their children in the poor house, where they get separated from them, and then that becomes the Dunblane school, eligible only for war widows and their children. Okay, and Prince Charles is the patron of that school, and Dunblane is right on the fault line that leads between Perth and Oban. Yeah, that's the Highland fault line. The biggest earthquake they had was in 79 AD, and it's the most quake prone place in Britain. Still sussing out exactly what happened in the first 150 years of religion in Scotland, but now the whole place is riddled with religious fraud. Yeah, and they know that I know it, and they know now, the ordinary worshippers, that they have a conscience about it. And I'm going to stop because I've got bigger things. I'm going on now to Justin Welby. I discovered this morning that the Walt Disney, who are the sponsors for this man's Time Team, yeah, and he's the sponsor for Tony Blair, Walt Disney are now the biggest Jewish owned corporation on our globe. So the Jews that were put down by Pope Gregory IX, yeah, right through to Judgment Day, which we have not gotten to yet, yeah, that is telling you that the Jews have done okay despite that alleged persecution. There is no division between these teams. The Lucifer stuff and all of the stuff I told you, it keeps the people in fear, it keeps them nervous about cloud patterns and the exhaust pipe of the planes that fly by. Within minutes the gods turn them into beautiful messages, and all of that is written in Revelations as a joke, because the Revelations bit is when the Piso family are falling apart, and the man who's the successor, I believe it was Justus Piso, he started to write Revelations, and he portrayed his dad, the legendary Arius Calpurnius Piso, or Josephus, as being the devil himself, because they're great egotists, and that's why they wrote the messages with the code in it. I'm going to take you there again and sign off on that point. Look at that document and your life will be changed forever. Yeah, if you're an underfunded scientist, if you've had your pay frozen for all of that time, it's 7 years now. David Prentice, I'm not a religious person, I'm just an analyst for why society fails to work, but I am God-fearing, and I admire the gods for their greatness, and that is all that needs to happen to make the world a peaceful place all around the world. and I don't believe in violence, and I don't believe that execution is the way to go, but the people can be shamed by the ordinary people who fund them entirely, and all of it can be fixed by conscience. Okay? Arius Calpurnius Piso. The history of the world and the ownership of it all. Pen name Flavius Josephus. I'm going to tell you that story this evening, although I will look at the signals from the gods about whether they want me to reveal those Jewish businesses. That's the LUBAWITCHERS. Yet they've become the witches. The LUBAWITCHER movement. They dress in black, they've got sinister black locks and curly hair, and that is the movement that Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister in Canada, George W. Bush have trained in, and their children are involved in the rewriting of the Talmud, and that is done in Rome. Right then, bye bye, talk to you later. Please look it up, have a little look, and be prepared to work on your mathematics. If your memory is stronger than mine, then this is summarized well enough for you never to forget the vital facts about all of the jokes that the news media use, like the paleface joke in the culling of the American Indians. That was not the Pisos that did that one, but everything else that gives them the ownership of the world, that gives the papacy the right to be genocidal in Latin America. Yeah, it is massive, and every war that they pick those corrupted leaders to be involved in, the genocides just change to different locations. That's the Balkans, that's Serbia, that's Lithuania, that is Austria. Yeah, and I talked to an Austrian woman yesterday. She's the most intelligent woman I've talked to for ages and ages and ages, and I'm going to help her with the minor issues that afflict her life. Yeah, and it is really good to talk to intelligent people that understand that their lives are being afflicted by greed and persecution, and changing all of the rules, yeah, so that humans right at the top of the food chain can get rich and everybody else gets poor and destabilized because of them. Do not forget it. That's the Pistorius trial, that's the KP nuts. Yeah, the alternative spelling in Greek is K. Yeah, KP nuts, Kenyan products, terror in the supermarkets. I'm going to tell you the whole story, and you need to be finely tuned. Do not be sleepy when you listen to my next video. Okay? Bye bye.